got about 120 pre-orders already for Inferno X, and that was only announced on Friday. So that is going to be a mental day when that releases. But first order 5496. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 boxes and a few packs to go with that as well. Let's get down one of these boxes and we will crack on with this order. It's always a bit chaotic when you've got pre-orders because when doing the labels, not everything's in order. I remember at the start doing sort of the first pre-orders, I would oversell stock. I would not manage things as well as I could have, not getting prepared ahead of time, you know, doing the labels ahead of time, doing sort of any other box fillers that I'm doing ahead of time. And that really costs when it comes down to it. But hopefully, after, how many pre-orders is that? I don't know, probably after 5 or 6 pre-orders we're in now. I hope it's a bit more streamlined at the moment. And well, that's only Korean pre-orders, not counting Japanese. Probably getting some Mega Dream in next week, but I will need to. My priority is the Inferno X and getting all of that done. You know, I ordered 10 cases, so 300 boxes. That's already gone, already sold out. So now looking to get some more in, making sure that I spread it around different suppliers as well. As you know, you can't just trust one supplier because they're not going to get the allocation that they want to get. And so they're not going to be able to put out as much as you're expecting on day one. And I think typically you get, I don't know, maybe 4 cases you get on day one. Depends on the size of your order from one supplier. And so you've got to spread yourself around. Otherwise you'll just not get the stock you need. Unfortunately. But that is just the way that it works when Pokemon is so popular at the moment. And all of these companies are international, so it's international demand. That is being dealt with. But it's also that they have no idea how much stock they're getting either. They do not have any idea about that. So they're surprised by their allocation when it comes out. They don't know what they can fulfill. And it just spirals from there. And the other thing about it is that typically a set would release and then it would drop in price for Japanese and for Korean as well. But that just doesn't happen anymore because there is no stock. There is just no stock. You know, Mega Brave, Mega Symphonia should have dropped in price. Black Bolt and White Flare should have dropped in price in, I suppose, what we call normal market conditions. But it's simply not happening at the moment. And so that is why we're seeing these prices stay really high, even for Destiny Rivals. You know, it came out and there was never good supply of Glory of Team Rocket. It was always, well, I wouldn't say short printed because it was probably printed. I forgot to put the card in. Thankfully, I remembered this before the box was sealed up. First order of the day, a little bit rusty after the weekend off. So let's get things in. And we'll put that on there, and this is first order, so we'll put in a free pack as well. Put that down there. Okay, now let's get this sealed up. Okay. So Glory Team Rocket just never good supply of that. And it hasn't really been since, I think Heatwave Arena and Battle Partners were really the last sets where you had actually decent supply and there was a good price drop for them. But beyond that, it's all going up. They're going up now as well. They're not going down. Well, they're rising up. I remember when it was like £24 for Battle Partners. was a great price, but that's really, really just gone up. But anyway, back in after the weekend, I really want to do some kind of in-person live event. I don't think there's going to be any opportunity to do it this side of Christmas. I think it's just too tight on time at the moment. But probably in the new year, when the weather's still miserable and you want to just go and do something inside, probably going to do something along those lines. I want to do it as quite community building, have a bit more around trading. I've spoken about this before, but for people to be able to complete their sets as we're on 5497. I was going to try and mention which order I'm on, because I know that if people are coming to look at these videos because they want to see their order being packed, a bit of a way to navigate around. So this is 5497 that just got packed up, one Glory Theme rocket. Yeah, to do a live event and to make it interesting as well, to make it sort of fun for children to go to. So you think I'm ideas, because I know there's stuff like pack battles, sort of interactive games that people can play, which is fine. I think pack battles are cool. It's a nice way to get sort of free packs, to give them out, have some fun with it, make it a bit more interactive. But I think, doing things like, a coconut shy, but you've got Pokemon plushes up and you're throwing a Pokeball at them like you're catching, and you hit the plush, you win the plush, and then you also get some free packs as well. Something along those lines, or I suppose the closest thing I can think about this is, it's just like Fear Factor. I don't know what it was in the UK. Maybe it was Fear Factor as well. It's Fear Factor UK, where you have to sort of reach in and you can't see what you're touching. Something along those lines of you reaching into the tall grass, taking out Pokemon trinkets, things that translate into prizes, winning a Find the Mew, win a whole booster box, things of that nature that are just fun, interactive. A bit more than just, you just go into a card show and they're vendors and you can buy from them, and that's cool. Obviously that's a nice aspect, and it's sort of something that it's something that's sustained, and you can then have these other things going on in the background. Or having binder themes. If you can create this binder from the show, not needing sort of expensive cards, but get 9 fire types or something like that, or get 9 copies of Pikachu and fill a binder page with that. Then being able to get prizes for that, etc., etc. Just those kind of fun ideas, little challenges that are about collecting, not necessarily about anything to do with hype, but they're just ways to engage people, to make it a bit more of an experience and a bit more fun than just a market that you have to pay to get entry to. And maybe that's been a bit too harsh on card shows. That there's more that they're offering. But, I look at what Pat Flynn, Deep Pocket Monster, is doing with Card Party, and that's more in line of something that I would want to do. Although I still think I get the appeal of sort of creator events. As in, you get to go and meet your creators. But I don't know. I don't know if it's sort of a British American thing. I'm just like, or I'm just too old for it. But I don't see that as a value add personally that I would want to go to an event. It's like, this person's coming, and that's why there's a bit of a premium on this event. I think that's not so cool. And I think it's different in terms of if they're adding something, of value. If you're bringing a musician and they were performing, yeah, sure, okay. But just for sort of a meet and greet thing, I don't know. Maybe I'm just miserable. It's possible. It's completely plausible that I'm just miserable And that is why I have no interest in stuff like that, or that I'm too old. Although even when I was younger, instead of watching YouTube, those sort of events just of no interest to me. You know, stuff like the Sidemen football matches. It's like, don't care. You know, I'm of the age where I would have watched KSI when I was younger, when he was doing sort of the road to Division 1 stuff. Sort of that era. You know, FIFA player, the Panthers, all of those kind of things. I was of that era, but I was watching that. Do you remember when Machinima? When they were signing people, a lot of the gaming people. Yeah, so I remember that. But even then, sort of, I don't know. But the thing is, then I don't like going out to things that much. You know, I think it would be cool to go to a card show, but then me actually going to a card show on the day, I'd be like, yeah, I'd rather just stay at home. To be honest, I'd rather just stay at home, and I'm not that into it. And here I am talking about hosting a live event, and that's different. Sort of, I'm doing it because sort of, I don't know, a greater purpose behind it. You know, one, I think it would be good for the Chase Club, just as a branding thing. But then two, I think that it's a nice part of the hobby to have that community thing, that you're not just, you know, people get that from breaks and doing things like that. And I'm still so on the fence about breaks and stuff like that, because I just can't. You know, I think it's fair to say that there's an element of gambling into Pokemon. I don't think anyone would really dispute that. If you're ripping packs, there's an element of gambling to that. And I think should we increase the amount of gambling in a hobby, or try and, although I don't know, you know, people are free to do what they want with their own money, aren't they? But it's just, and you know, it is comparable. And I think it's important to differentiate between things like whatever that thing's called. I've seen some, is it Cardhouse.io? Something.io? I really can't remember what that thing is. I see a couple, I've seen ads for it. I think like Cardhouse.io. Something. Who cares? It's fine. It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. But that sort of thing is a little bit more dodgy, and sort of resealed things, mystery bundles, things of that nature are a bit more dodgy. You know, where you can just get a slab inside. These things are all a casino, and you're not supposed to win at the casino. At the end of the day, the house always wins. And I suppose why I'm stepping back a bit from breaking, putting breaking in that ballpark, is that it's still the same product from Pokemon. You know, if you're going to buy this and you're going to rip it, or I'm going to break on camera, it's still the same product. The odds were still the same. I've never fixed or fiddled the odds. So in a sense, there's not that level to it. Whereas when you're doing these slab packs, you know, you do set the odds. It is completely controlled. And the only reason that people are doing them is because they are profitable and they make money on it. There's no other reason to do it. So you are guaranteed that over the long run, or even over the short term, you will lose money. It's a losing game to play that. And it's just, that's something that I would never do. I would never judge someone for doing it. I would never judge someone for spending money on it, because I completely understand those. But I think that there is a good reason not to do it. And I think it's a completely justified stance. But yeah, not sure how that came about. But anyway, so the live events, in terms of just having that more community aspect, which is fulfilled by breaks, but having it as a more live in-person event, because you just don't get a lot of them. You don't get a lot of opportunities to just go and hang out with. I haven't been counting anything, have I? That was 5517, and next up is 5520, 1 battle partners, 1 Terrestrial. you don't get a lot of these in-person meetups, and they are what can sustain you in a hobby. If you're collecting, you're seeing what other people are collecting, you get inspired by them, you get encouraged by them. It does enhance the collecting experience. It does enhance the Pokemon experience. And, that's why we like to go on YouTube and just listen to people talk about Pokemon, because we maybe don't get that in our own lives. We're the only person, we don't have someone to share this hobby with. And so doing that, building connections, having experience on top of that, I think I'd also want to do it as a place that I will buy cards. People who've got bulk, Korean bulk, if they've got cards that they want to sell, then having a look at that, buy them off them. I wouldn't do it, because it's difficult. I bought once from Sunderland, as in someone who reached out to me. I bought other collections on eBay. I'll probably do a video showing them on the channel, showing what I bought on the channel. But it's hard, when people come to you and they've got a few cards and, they're cool, less than 10 cards. But it's just the cost of shipping we could offer them. It's not really worth it. And maybe that's not up for me to make that judgment call. I can, say it's going to cost this, or this is all you can get for it. Are you in or are you out? And just always give people the offer. But sometimes it's just, you look at it, it's not so worth it to do this. So the collections that I bought previously are, like close to £100 plus, because then there's actually there's some meat there. There's something that you can do with it, and you can offer a satisfying amount of money, I suppose, to someone for all these cards. Whereas in person, because what I'm thinking more of is the cost of, shipping things out. Whereas in person, I think it's, if you don't have to ship it, they just come there, they can bring their cards, and they can just trade them in, whether it's for store credit or whether it's just for cash in hand. So I think that's a better way of doing things, and a way that I would prefer to do things. Also giving the option of trades, so bringing sort of the binders of Korean cards that I have, or Japanese cards or other cards, and then people are able to trade for them. So this is 5522, one Glory of Team Rocket. That is something that I'd want to do at these places as well. Sell cards in person, sort of have that binder, just sort of vending, I suppose. Although I've got no experience vending, but just bringing along a binder of cards and letting people go through them and see what they would like to take out. And then, of course, people being able to trade with one another, because it's very difficult to complete sets. Just from our setting, I see people ordering, or people telling me that they're ordering to complete the master set. And it's just, I know that Korean is less expensive than other languages, than English and Japanese. But still, to rip a master set, it is a crazy price. This is 5526, and we've got 8 items. Got 8 items. So again, going in the big box. I think ripping a master set's crazy. Satisfying, I've got no doubt. I completely get on board with the idea that it's more satisfying to rip a card. It's not that much more satisfying to rip a card though than being able to buy the singles. So I would rip up to a point. Let's put it that way. But I would never, so I'm trying to complete Legends Make It EX, or reverse holofoil stamped. But I would never say it's more satisfying to rip. I'm going to spend all my money, on a credit card, buying Legends Make It EX packs so that I can rip them and get something from there. That is not a sensible thing to do. But I understand, when you've got some of these cheaper sets in Korean, Scarlet and Violet base, Paradise Dragon is a good price, Stellar Miracle is a good price. Going to those and just being able to rip for really cheap, I understand why you might want to do that. So I've got one Mega Brave, got a black and a white. Got Team Rocket, Battle Partner Stella. Team Rocket, Battle Pass and Stella. And it's a complete mess at the moment. I've got like 2 cases of Black Bolt down there, 2 cases of White Flare, another Mega Brave, a case of Triple Beat that I need to relist on the website as well, because I think Triple Beat's just gone out of stock. And I know there was someone who messaged me on Instagram that they're like working through all the different sets. So they've done Scarlet and Violet Base, and next one is Triple Beat, and then they want Clayburst and Snow Hazard. So I'm going to try and get them in for that person to, well, just so you know they can have it. I don't normally order. You know, there are these different sets that I won't normally get in. I'll always try and get the big hitters in. You know, Mega Brave, Mega Symphonia, Black Bolt, White Flare. You know, always trying to stock those. And things like Super Electric Breaker, Ruler of the Black Flame. These are very popular sets at the moment. Although I remember a time when Ruler of the Black Flame wasn't actually that. It wasn't that hot. It was a relatively cheap set. And to be honest, I never understood why Obsidian Flames was not in demand. Just for the, I suppose, this Pokemon fundamentals, that it's a Charizard set. And it seems to me that the Charizard set should, well, not that it should, but based on Pokemon status, it should be a big set. But it wasn't for a time. And I'm not sure what really blew it up. And but then people just started to get put on Rule of the Black Flame, on Obsidian Flames, and then obviously that has a knock-on effect then to Korean, as people see that, and they're like, oh, I actually want it in Korean as well. Always worried that these things are going to run away from me. Can I get there? I don't think that's really going to fit. I'll put that over here. First bag of tracked 48 done. Get another bag that this one can go at the base of. Absolutely fly through these bags. Always a Wednesday. Postman hates me. Sorry, on a Monday. Postman hates me. I've got so many bags for them to pack up. That's going in there. That was 5526. And let's got 5527 again with a big box for 5 items, but we're going to cut it down this time and do it in that manner. So yeah, you know, that person asked me for these sets, and they're not ones I'd normally stock. Clayburst and Snow Hazard aren't the most popular, the hottest sets. I know the Clayburst has that Iono in, which in Japanese is more desirable. The Japanese always seems to, well, there's the waifu tax for those cards, which seems to be mainly unique to Japanese, or not unique to Japanese, but primarily a Japanese phenomenon. So it's not always the most popular in Korean, and I've had it in Korean before. But the last time I got it, I think it was quite a high price. It was in like the high 20s. And, you know, it's my fault, because I've had Clayburst in before. And I should have known that it wasn't gonna sell well at that price, because it's not one of the most popular sets. And I think it's always important to see sort of, is someone going to buy this, or are they going to buy the other sets at this price point, or something cheaper? And to look at the products as a whole. And I think Clayburst is just not up there. For £25 set, I think fair enough. Same with Snow Hazard, as people just like to be able to experience a different variety at these lower price points. So if that's what they afford, it's just, if you want to just get into Pokemon, cheap price, rip set. And I don't think any set has terrible cards. There's no set I look at it and I'm like, F tier set, because there's always, I might rank them actually. I might do a video ranking. That would be interesting. Will it be interesting? I don't know. It's something to do, isn't it? And just to, well, more just to go through and look at all the different cards, and because that's something I enjoy doing, and to come up with what I think is fair for different sets. But Clayburst and Snow Hazard, not hot sets. But if someone asks, I don't mind just getting a case in of them and having it up on the site, because I'm sure for the price point that they hopefully are, that there'll be other people who are interested as well. And Wild Force and Cyber Judge I want to get in as well. I think I want to get one of them in, because there's a Gengar in one of them. Not a great Gengar, not a Gengar like the Mega Dream one, which is a shame. Really. It's been ages since there's been a good Gengar. They had, this, I don't even know what they had, but it was one of those full arts where you just have the, let me just shove this in here, try and get both these together. It was one of those full arts where you just have the colours behind it. And which, I mean, come on. I don't want to throw 5-ban graphics under the bus, but it was maybe a 5-ban graphics card. Although sometimes they do a very good ones. So, yeah, it's just, people like to hunt for the Gengar. So that is one worth having. However, the real Gengar that people are going to want to hunt for is the Mega Dream one, of course. No question about that at all. Finally back onto the bubble wrap. We finished all the ones that came from distros. Are they distros? Wholesalers? Probably distros, to be honest. From Korea and Japan. One of the annoying things about a lot of the Japanese distros, the majority of them do not give you a price list. You have to go and say, I want this, this, and this. And then they'll say, fine, this is how much it costs. It's just well, I understand that the prices change so much. And that's something else that I like to do, is to just have a look back and look at all of the price lists that I've been sent for Korean. Just to show how much prices change. On some sets, you have prices changing on for certain suppliers on a near daily basis. And it's just a bit ridiculous, especially at the moment with Mega Dream. It's really just going as we approach release day, which is why you always get your pre-orders in for Japanese sets before the set list is announced, or before some of the cards are announced. And I had it in mind, I just didn't do it. Well, it's not that I didn't do it. It's just that I had to. It was more important for me to put capital into Inferno X. And I think it was a good decision. I digress. It's one of the quirks of Japanese that a lot of them are like that. Probably because a lot of them drop ship. They don't have necessarily the product on hand, but they get it in from the factories, or they have a certain amount of product on hand. But the majority of it, they're getting it from the factories. And then once they get it in, they will ship it out to you. Which is, it's their way of doing things. And that's fine. It happens in Korean as well. It's just part of it comes to the territory, I suppose. Ordering from these places. Obviously, it's, I have no complaints, as it allows pretty much anybody to open up a Pokemon store. You can just go and find these people and then you can sell. There's less gatekeeping compared to what you have with English, with all of these distribution networks that are very heavily guarded. I suppose it's unique. We're in a unique time. So if you look and go and try and open a trade account at the moment, they're only really considering brick and mortar stores, and even then, it's not a shoe-in. There's no 100% guarantee that you will be able to get it, even if you're there. So I think it's always good to have these things. I'm probably going to be looking at also purchasing some One Piece from, from Japan. Get some Japanese One Piece and start stocking that. I've read the first volume or volumes. I can't remember how to say it, from the One Piece manga. Well, really, I saw it on Netflix. Why do I have Netflix at that moment? I think I had Netflix to watch the end of You, season 5 of You. I think that's why I had Netflix, because I don't normally have it. I don't. The only subscription I really have is Spotify. I didn't have Netflix, because I just don't watch that much TV, and if I do, I find ways to watch it, I suppose is the way of putting that. So, yeah, I didn't watch it, but I think probably You, and then you get like a month. You're in for a month, so I'm like, well, let's see what else is there. And I think that was when there was that live action of One Piece coming out. To be honest, I have no idea what people think about that. I know it's a condensed version. It's not as long as obviously it's not as long as the anime. Like 2,000 episodes of the anime, something crazy that you're just never gonna keep up with. Or no, not that you're never gonna keep up with, but if you're coming into it at this point as someone who's not been there from the start or got in early, I think it's a daunting prospect to look up to or to enter into. So I remember I watched the Clone Wars maybe 3-4 years ago. I just watched all the Clone Wars, and there at least you can look up, although, maybe there is for One Piece, but you can look up sort of what are the story arcs you need to watch, and there are some skippable episodes. Same with Doctor Who. I showed someone Doctor Who a long time ago, a while ago, and yeah, just looking up sort of what episodes are core and actually you need to watch to follow the storyline of the show, and which episode is just not relevant at all. I'm sure there is that for One Piece, but it was just easier to watch live action, and it was actually good. And then I went and watched or bought the first volume. I think like the Great Blue. They were all like the first seven books. I'm not sure. I'm not sort of well versed in making a right back of this. Black Bolt and Violet. I haven't been keeping up. This is 5538. Hope that's a signpost for people. But this is the one. I really need to focus a bit more on doing it and not getting drawn out into tangents. But anyway, so I'm thinking of stocking One Piece. It's something that, because you're always sort of thinking about it. You're like, oh, I could stock Magic the Gathering, but I don't know anything about Magic the Gathering. I have bought Magic the Gathering packs in the past. This is true, but I don't know enough where I would feel comfortable about selling it, because I want to promote it as well. And maybe I don't need to. There are loads of card shops, and obviously they can't know everything about all the products that they stock. But maybe Star Wars Unlimited as well. The thing is, I've never played Star Wars Unlimited, so sort of doing it feels a bit. It's not fake. I don't know. Maybe I'm being too restrictive, or sort of thinking too much about it. Like, oh, I've got to know all of these other TCGs as well as I would know Pokemon. Otherwise, it's just not on to do it. And I don't think that's necessarily true. It's not an essential thing. But One Piece seems like a first thing to go and do, because I actually do like it. I think it was a very enjoyable show. There are some great scenes. The whole Arlong Park thing, great. So, yeah, that's probably something I'm going to do, but it's always a thing that I'm not going to do it in a way that it takes resources away from any other aspects of the business. So the way I see it is just my priority is Korean. That is the customer base that I want to appeal to. I think that is, although it's not, I was going to say it's the the USP, unique selling point of the Chase Club. Although I'd like to think that our customer service was pretty good, and we get a lot of positive feedback for that, and so I like to think that's why we would get repeat customers, maybe also our social media presence, although I probably should post more. Well, it's not that I should post more, because I'm doing all right at the moment. You know, trying to get a post every like 5-6 days a week on Instagram, and then trying to do this with YouTube and hopefully make it entertaining. And I've also bought a setup, could kind of do some live streaming at home. So we'll see how that goes. I have no idea. I'm still trying to get OBS sorted, Streamlabs, because it's just being annoying in terms of that. I don't know, not letting me stream. Anyway, so that kind of thing, you know, those USPs. But Korean is my priority. I have sort of that as a main focus. I think most people who engage with any of my content probably would recognize me for Korean. If they see me, they expect me to be talking about Korean. Potentially, I have no idea, really. So that is what my focus was. Inferno X or Mega Dream. Always going to take Inferno X in Korean. And it would come down to that again, is that I could stock One Piece and I would like to move into another TCG. But there's also like, I would like to stock Chinese. I would like to, at some point, everything goes well, have the possibility to stock English at some point. But it's just not an option. You know, you look at all those things, you sort of think, well, I don't have the money to put into this. I am at a good place in terms of Korean stock, but I know that there are way more people who'd be interested in buying Korean anyway. And I can't fulfill all of them. You know, I don't have that capacity because I just don't have the stock available. 5546. So, and then I try and just keep Japanese afloat, so that if people come to the store, that they do see something in Japanese, and then just like, well, where do you go next? Where are you going next? Something that is good about selling on Shopify and selling on PayPal is that they give you capital offers. So I can take leaps in terms of the business when I get sort of one of those funding offers. And the way it works is then they just take a percentage of your sales, and that goes back to them. So you get an injection, a bit of a slowdown, but then when you're out of it, things can scale quite quickly. And I'm hoping to sort of continue with that as well, to get these cash injections, and then that allows me to scale. But really, you know, you're thinking that, well, maybe I just want to put more into ads and to attract more people into Korean, or maybe I want to sort of stall Korean for now, and then I branch out and do other things, such as Chinese, such as One Piece, such as more Japanese, to be honest, carrying more Japanese stock. Because in some things in Japanese, it sells out so quickly. And this is 5547. And you're just thinking that maybe, you know, just go deeper with Japanese. But I don't know what people think. I do get quite a few people asking me about Chinese. I've never looked into it. I remember at one point I did see something on Instagram about a Chinese distro, but I never pursued it. I never took it further. I didn't look into it at all. And maybe I should have. Maybe that would have been a good opportunity at that point, but for me, I don't think it was. And I think that one thing I will say, I think there are people asking for Chinese who aren't asking for Korean. You know, Korean's not something that people ask for. You show it to them, they're like, oh, cool. That's actually something that I would like to go into, to look into. Because, you know, the value proposition makes sense. It is much cheaper. You get a ripple load of packs. Whereas I think Chinese is actually something that people like. I hear about these Chinese exclusives and I want to get in. I want to have something to do with that. And you wonder if it is just being used as a testing ground for something that they'll bring in future. You know that Mew where there were only 1,510 of them released. You're thinking, is that going to make it into other languages? And the question really is, why not? Why would they not bring it into other languages? I don't know. I don't know what the argument is at. But I think something to think about as well is how distinct are the different, I suppose, branches of the Pokemon Company International. So you've got Pokemon Korea, you've got the international one, you've got Pokemon Japan, you've got these different, not affiliations, but these different branches, I suppose is the way of putting it. And how much are they, well, I don't know, how much do they just do whatever they want? Not 100%, obviously, but if China was just like, look, Pokemon's like, okay, look, it's a huge market, and the way that we're going to get them in, the way that we're going to suck them in, is we're going to offer them these exclusives to really generate a frenzy. And Pokemon are smart. You see something like that, and you're like, they know what they're doing. They know what it takes to seed a market, and it was a good thing to do, and it will drive up demand. Will it be long-lasting demand? Who knows? Something that comes to mind for that is, like the MLS. To get David Beckham in, you're like, wow, soccer's going to blow up. But it doesn't. You get other stars in, you get Messi in, it's going to blow up. But it doesn't really. They get the World Cup. Is it going to blow up? Who knows? It's not the first time they've had the World Cup. Is it? I believe it's not the first time they've had the World Cup. And so, you just don't know. It's very hard to artificially boost something, even as these big companies. Perhaps that it was just, it drew attraction to Chinese cards, but not necessarily from people actually in China. I have no idea. But I know that there's a lot of buzz internationally, and I would wonder how many of those 1,510 cards are in international hands, so are in America, are in Europe, are in the Middle East, and how many of those are actually, and in Japan, and how many of those are actually still in China. But so that is one thing, that there is this organic collectability to, or organic appeal to Chinese product that people find by themselves, where they wouldn't necessarily look and discover Korean. And to be honest, that is one thing that is working in favor of Korean, because it means that Korean stays cheaper for longer. I don't have all these people who are looking and going into it. Let's do one thing. So the organic demand for Chinese is sort of, there naturally, whereas it might not necessarily be there for, or Korean. The organic collectability is a price, and people may or may not discover it. It's never going to be in any headlines, is it? Korean prices are cheap. However, if you do follow the Pokemon sphere, then you will see some of these posts about Chinese and how cheap they are, and that is going to attract people, and people want to know more. And as collectors, you're always looking for this exclusivity, for finding what the rare thing might be and going after it. So it is interesting, and it's probably something worth pursuing. So if you're looking at it, English is not in my hands. The only way that you can stock English as I forgot to turn the charger on for the camera. The only way that you can stock English as someone without a distributor, well, you lose money. You buy stuff at market and you lose money on it. You manage to buy people's collections out and you can sell that way. You can sell singles, of course. But if you want to sell sealed product, really what you have to do is you have to buy sealed product, hold it, and sell it when it comes out at market price. That's really what you have to do. And if you want that, which is, fine, but it's not a great operating strategy if you actually want to have, lots of business turnover and lots of customers. Because you either need a ridiculous amount of capital going into it so that you can, buy enough stock that will sustain you as things go on. You also have no control over when the price is going to go up. So you have no idea when you can actually sell your product. And you don't know if it's going to go up. And you might just be left holding the bag. So it's not a great strategy. I certainly think it's better to go down the Korean or Japanese route if you are interested in building up just 3 of those, 2 of those. I don't think it's going to fit in there, but it probably will fit in one of these. Korean, Japanese, or Chinese, or singles are the best way to go. But singles are just hard. Well, I suppose that's what's a good thing about it is, it makes the shop interesting. If you've got lots of sort of cool singles to show, but maybe that's thinking a bit more of the in-person aspect of it. That having lots of singles in person add to the appeal of a card shop, whereas not necessarily, online. It's not so relevant, although it is something cool that you can show off, I guess, in videos, etc. So not discounting that. Let me get a load of bubble wrap and just pad this all out. This isn't the cleanest way of doing it. I'm sure there is a more professional / neat way of doing this. I don't know, actually. I'm just going to get this in here to pad around the sides, and then eventually on top as well. This is one of those orders where I would forget to put in the slip, but I didn't forget. I'm going to put the slip in. I'm not going to have to cut open this box. And we're still on track at 5557, 3 Glory of Team Rocket, 2 Terrestrial Festival. There we go. Putting that in, continue doing the padding, doing it on top, and then this should seal it. Beautiful, perfect amount of bubble wrap, closing it up, and that just makes you smile, doesn't it? That just puts a smile on your face. I'm not smiling, but treat this as, the way you send an emoji. It's not necessarily the face that you have on at the time, but it's how you feel inside. And it's the most relevant expression of the moment. And honestly, what more can you ask for than that? Okay, 3 Mega Symphonia. Fine. So yeah, English out of my hands. I'm not so interested in English singles. I think it's just so competitive at the moment as well. You want to buy a collection, it's just crazy. You're much better off going and looking for a Japanese or Korean collection, to be honest, in my opinion. So Korean singles I have not here, but I do have some sort of from just personal collections, just things that I've ripped here, but I don't have any of the collections I bought. They're all at home. But yeah, taking them, pricing them out, listing them on the website, I think it is a good thing to have. It's another way without the trading that people can complete a master set, and that's a good thing to do. It's just the work. That's just me being lazy, isn't it? Just saying, oh, I don't want to do it. Because you've got to go, you've got to look up all the prices, you've got to do spreadsheets, etc., and it just takes effort. But those are the ones which are important to do because then not a lot of people are doing them, and that's what helps you then stand out. And I think it is good for a, if I'm going to stand here and say, oh, the gambling part of the hobby, we should get rid of that, although it's inherent, so but minimize it, I suppose, whatever I'm going on about, then this was 5560, this one coming up is 5560, then you've got to be in favor of selling singles and contributing to that. So maybe a bit hypocritical of me if I'm saying that I don't want to do singles, I just want to sell sealed, but in the same time talking smack about the gambling aspect. I don't know. So I think so. So having a way to sell singles, this one is going to Sweden. How exciting for it. So we could take a Mega Brave, Mega Symphonia. That's going in there. And then we've got a Terrestrial Festival that we're going to put in here as well. And put the letter in, or note in. I'll have to do this label later with DPD. I'll do, so that goes in there. That goes in there, and put a free pack in as well. First order. So yeah, going to go through, price everything out. It's nice as you get a lot of sort of discounted things. I might also try and do, I don't know, I've been listening to a lot of, over the weekend, podcasts relating to sports card content, because of, well, just because I think it's interesting just to see what other collecting hobbies, other TCG hobbies are doing. I think it's always good to do, always to keep sort of on top of things, not sort of stuck within Pokemon, even that, not stuck within just cards in general. Trying to look what other people are doing in terms of collecting and trying to learn from them, and particularly their card shows and what makes a good card shop. And a lot of what they're talking about was the idea that if you want so you're not just thinking about your card shop staying alive, but you're thinking about the hobby as a whole staying alive. And because what's good for the hobby is going to be then good for your card shop. Because if the hobby stays alive, then your card shop most likely will stick around. Well, let's put it this way. If Pokemon died off and card collecting died off in general, then there would be no card shops. Let's put it that way. And so from there, sort of saying, okay, well then what is good for the hobby? And the idea that was put forward that what is good for the hobby is that kids and parents have a good experience. And I think that's fair enough. And you're thinking about what do parents want to be able to do for their children. And it's not like they want to just be able to go and drop 300 to buy one booster box for their kids. In my mind as a parent, that would not be top of my priority list. I would not be very interested in doing that. And maybe a pack or two, but I'd look for other things that might be of interest to the child, like Pokemon books, Pokemon annuals. Anyone remember annuals? What a great thing. Have maybe a little word search, crosswords. I think I had some Pokemon annuals. Don't know. I don't remember if I do. But books, things like that, or video games, toys, lots of different ways for people to interact with the hobby. And so possibly you'd be more inclined to do that as opposed to spend so much money on Pokemon. Or you might say, let's get Lorcana instead, let's buy them some Yu-Gi-Oh! If they just want cards, they just like to look through and look at them, then there are lots of different ways to do that without spending the Pokemon premium that is at the moment. And I think that would be fair enough. Or, something that I get a lot of parents who buy from me or who message me. And so I think that is it's just something to keep in mind, that if you're buying things for your child, you don't necessarily want to have to break the bank every single time. It's not really, what are you going to do? £300 every time a new set comes out, because they're watching loads of people on YouTube, and they're like, oh, but they've got this, the new set's coming out, it's got my favorite Pokemon in, etc., etc. I think I just can't do that. And so finding a way for people of any background, for any price point, at any level, to enjoy the hobby. We're now on 5573. Just had to do something. Which I had to take a call. So, pack this up, and yeah, just making things, good for children. Have things at lots of different price points. So, even instead of selling bulk, I don't know, 10 cards for £1, something like that. Having that as an option for people just to buy cards would be, I think, a good thing to have. And but it's the thing, these are all things that I'd like to implement, like to have. I'd like to have these sort of in-person activities. I'd like to have binder challenges, where you have a store, and if a child brings you, let's say you said, if you can bring me 9 Pikachus, 9 Korean Pikachus in a binder, then I will give you I don't know, you get a free pack, you get a discount, you get some store credit, you get something. I think that would be a cool thing to do. And I think that's something which makes a hobby shop elite or better compared to just a run-of-the-mill place. Just somewhere where, you can come here and you can buy packs, or you can engage in our organized play. But that's it. There's no sort of more experience. There's no more experience in that. Probably the best. Well, there's a card shop. I can't remember what's it called. I think it's Zombie Cafe. Is it Cricklewood? I don't know, somewhere in North London, basically. In North London, there are 2 card shops. I know. There's Zombie Games. Or Zombie Cafe, and there's Leisure Games. And Zombie Games is, well, to be honest, frankly, it's more of a cafe attached to I've got a Power to Dragona packs. More of a cafe with TCG attached. But what they do is they do lots of game nights. So lots of organised play events. I don't know where the knife is. Anybody see the knife? Can anybody see it? It's in one of my pockets. I'm going to have to take this open with my teeth. Anybody see a knife? No, let's just do this with scissors. Where is it? But it never cuts deep enough. Just abuse the box. There we go. Yeah, so Zombie Cafe. They've got sort of like retro games there. They've got a cafe. I believe they've got board games you can rent. So it's sort of a space where you can come and hang out and you can spend time. You're not just going in there to buy the product, but you can actually have a lot of time to spend there. And to be honest, I don't think their selection product was massive. They didn't have that much product when I've been in there on the shelves. But they do have a lot of organised play. So they've got a basement where they've got tables all set up, and they do all sorts of card games there. They do Lorcana, Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon, One Piece. They do Star Wars Unlimited as well. So they've got lots of stuff going on there. The other type card shop, Leisure Games, they have a lot more. So they've got a lot more in terms of stock. Mainly board games. They have a lot of board games, and it's sort of a great destination for that as well. However, it's not so much a hangout place. And I think that the hangout element is appealing. It's not Crimson Haze, it's Scarlet. I think the hangout aspect is appealing. Somewhere that you can go and you can spend a lot of time. And obviously it's appealing for you as the card shop as well. The longer people are spending in your shop, likely the more that they will be spending as well. And so I think creating that environment, creating different price points, creating sort of interactive challenges is a positive way of going about things, and is a way that I would want to try and go about things and organize a card shop. But then again, you always sort of on the thing that is actually, there are so many reasons. There are so many reasons not to open a card shop. And I'm not even sort of anywhere close to opening a card shop. I'm just thinking out loud here. But the Zombie Games Cafe, where it's almost a cafe first, and then it's got all of these card shop aspects to it, is, I think, is more the right idea. So if I was going to open a card shop, I would do it more in terms of Zombie Games Cafe, although it's a very tight space. And I think that doesn't help it. I think there's the corridor that you have to walk to the back of the store is blocked by people playing video games. You have to sort of step in front of them as they're playing. And we all know about that. We all know that's not what you want to have. So, but yeah, that idea, that hangout space, offering different price points, having sort of, dollar bins that you would have more, I guess, in sports card, but also probably in Pokemon cards. I know, in a way, maybe I'm consuming more sports card content at the moment than Pokemon card content. But I'm just trying to come up with ideas to, I don't know, just have in the back of the mind and think, when there's time, resources, whatever, to start implementing these kind of things, to just have them in the bag. I remember there was one thing that I wanted to do. It is an apparel company, I think, in America. I don't know if they're in Mexico, but they're called Los Cielos, or Cielos, I suppose. And they actually did make some Pokemon stuff. I remember they had a Gengar, I think it was a hoodie or sweatshirt, which was really cool. But what they do include within their orders is, sort of the tag you'd have in your jeans, on a piece of clothes, the tag. That theirs is a stand for diorama, for collectibles, for, action figures that you can put in there. And so one thing I was thinking about was doing that, but like a card stand for Pokemon. And going to artists, commissioning artwork from them to create these card stands that you could put in, that would need to be flat packed so that they would fit, and small enough to fit in the smallest box that I ship in. Those would be, requirements that it would obviously need to fit, because I'd want to include it with every order. And, rotating amount of art, so that if people buy multiple times, they're not going to get the same one. Maybe they're 5 in a set, and you're just going to get a random one. And how to design it. But the problem with it is, or the problem that I found, was it's just sort of, well, the card is going to hide it, isn't it? If you do any artwork, the card is just going to hide it. Or if you're going to have the design is around the outside, perhaps that's the route you go down. You have the design is around the outside. It might not go with the cards they get, because there are lots of card stands which are designed specifically for a card, where they sort of extend the artwork of whatever card it is that you want to display. And those are cool, but it traps you into a card. And maybe you don't want that card. Maybe you want a different card. So obviously it would not be beneficial for you to have that. It's still something I'd want to do. I still think, for all of these things, you just got to have a lot of things going on the back burner. And then it'll come to you. And you'll work something out. And you'll say, yeah, okay, now we can do this. But it's just having ideas in the back burner. Or just sort of talking about things. And maybe someone in the comments will say, you should do it like this. And I'll say, yeah, that's a great idea. And just something to include. Not, it's just a free gift with purchase. Not something that people that are charged for. but just an inclusion with the purchase. I thought that would be something interesting to do, but I haven't worked out how yet to do that, how to implement it. I think card stand makes the most sense. Does it? Maybe. Well, yes, it is, because I want it to be, all the time. I think you've got to come back to that. It's collector first. If this isn't something that a collector would see and go, yeah, that's actually really cool, then why are you doing it? So we're talking about collecting Pokemon cards specifically, or mainly at the moment. And so then the question is, how can we improve that experience? How can we make it better to be a Pokemon card collector? Making it cheaper, making it more affordable to be a Pokemon card collector. Okay, cool. That's something that Korean served. But then, putting these tags in, putting these things in, hosting a live event. How does it make it better for you as a collector, a better experience as a collector? I think making sure that you have these core things. I want the Chase Club to be anti-hype. It's a Chase Club, but it's your Chase. It doesn't have to be the same as everybody else's Chase. You go on r/Poke Investing, and you look at it and we're like, is this a good buy? I don't know. Do you like it? Do you like the card? Do you think it's a cool card? Because if you do, then yeah, tick, 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 it's a good buy. But if you're like, do you think this is going to go up in the next 2 years? Like, please. And I understand, okay, you're in the wrong sub. It's r/Poke Investing. But it's just this thing about, if you're looking to invest, just make your own decisions. Do your research, sure. But you don't need everything to be signed off on. You don't need every single decision that you make to be signed off on. I think it's just not the right thing to do. I think it slows life down and makes it less interesting. Because then you're just in the hive mind. And you can go on r/Poke Investing, you can say, is this a good thing to invest in? And some will say yes and some will say no. And then where are you? You're still left making a decision. And I don't think asking people on Reddit for Pokemon investing advice is necessarily the best use of your research. So at the end of the day, well, let's leave Pokemon investing out of it. But it's this kind of thing of this hive mind mentality. And that's why pump and dumps can occur. If there wasn't this hive mind, but there's always going to be the hive mind. It's always easier to follow the crowd and to, your taste is aligned with the crowd's taste. And then at least there's a slight safeguard against your taste being horrible. Let's put it this way. This box just isn't working for me. Because these boxes need to sit next to each other. Like that. And then we can go back in here. Like so. Right. The high mind allows pump and dumps to occur. Because it's like, okay, everybody just wants to go, oh, this Drowsy is now really cool. Pump it. This Seismitoad, it's Shinji Kanda, pump it. And, there are some Shinji Kanda artworks, or the vast majority of Shinji Kanda artworks are great. I don't deny that. His, as I've probably mentioned before, his Aerodactyl in 151 is a phenomenal card. And up there with one of the best Aerodactyls that's been printed, I believe. And it's just, a little picture window card. It's not full art, it's nothing crazy, but it's just cool. Because Aerodactyl looks crazy. So, but there are some Pokemon that he does which just don't suit it. I don't think they fit it. The same with, what's his name, Tomokazu Komiya? Is an approximation. I think it's Komiya. Komiya. But I can't remember what his first name is. Or her, to be honest. So, yeah, sometimes their artworks, because their artwork is so out there, so thematic, it really creates an atmosphere around the Pokemon, that it doesn't necessarily work with every single Pokemon. And you need a certain, Pokemon needs to have a certain feel for it to suit it. So that's why, just because an artist created something doesn't mean that everything that that artist created is incredible. And I would urge you to spend time, go on something like Cerebi. They've got an artist dex. I don't know if it's the best, but it's the one that I used in the past to look at artists. And one thing, it's just interesting to see how an artist evolves. If they made cards in the WotC era, and then they're still making cards now, it's really interesting to see some who had really good longevity, some just dropped off, some only seem to get brought in to make bangers, and some just stick with a lot of the regular cards. And so looking through that, but looking through these artists who people say are the GOATs, it doesn't mean that their whole body of work is incredible. And I think if you look through all of their work, you'll see that there are some really big highs. And I'm not saying that there are low lows, but there are cards which are just like, yeah, cool. It's a nice card. It's a Pokemon card, but I wouldn't pay top dollar for it. And so I'm also not really convinced by, and I don't think it's a very strong sort of movement, but collecting a particular artwork or collecting a card just because of the artist. I think, I don't know, primarily it's Pokemon. We're collecting Pokemon. There's the knife. Primarily it's Pokemon that are being collected. It's not sort of, an artist is being collected. The artist isn't going out and being told you can create whatever you like. It does not matter. And we'll print it. Because then, okay, yes, you're collecting for the artist. But in this instance, we need you to draw this Pokemon. And you do have artistic freedom, but it's constrained within that idea. So the artist does have some agency, I don't deny that. And there is artistic flair and creativity that can go into it. But I think primarily they created a cool Pokemon. And I have in the past tried to create binders for artists or binder pages for artists. And it's like, I always lose interest in it. Because it's too rigid for me. Even collecting a single Pokemon, I find is too rigid. Unless there's some theme behind it. But maybe again, this is personal taste. So, if you want to collect for an artist, then go for it. Everyone collects in different ways. And there's nothing. There's no logic to it. There's no order to it. There's no rules. There are no rules. If you want to do something a certain way, do it a certain way. And more power to you for doing it that way. There's that guy on Instagram who puts those double page, or they fit 2 binders pockets. And it's really cool. It's a great thing, and you see it catch on and other people are doing it. And, putting photos in, and it's an album. It's not necessarily a binder anymore. It's evolved beyond that. It's an album, which I think is very cool and is a nice way to do things. But it's not something I don't think I've got the patience to do that. Print out those things, put them in. I prefer things like doing the Pokemon Square from Blue Rescue Team, all the NPCs who have shops in Pokemon Square, or doing different mainline teams that are in them. What's a bad team called from the first one? The one with Gengar. It's Gengar, Medicham, and Ekans. And then in Explorers of the Sky, I say from the first and the second one. From Explorers of the Sky, it's Skuntank, Zubat, and Coughing. I think they're Team Skull. Oh, and Team Meanies. Isn't it? Is it Team Meanies in the first one? What a name. Team Meanies. They're the bad guys, don't you? And they've got a skull. Anything with a skull, and you're asking, are we the baddies? And the answer is usually yes. So yeah, or doing something, along those lines. And having Team Act. Alakazam, Charizard, Tyranitar. What a team. Or now that just comes to mind, there's a really funny Tyranitar card. No. Larvitar card. Well, he's sort of on a beach and he's making like sand sculptures of Larvitar and of Pupitar and Tyranitar. What a great card. You know, what a fantastic card. Just the just the world building. That's what that's what he does. Larvitar is just chilling on a beach and he's got a sandcastle behind him. Beautiful one, rivaling Palisand. And really he's just like, I just want to grow up. I just want to be a Pupitar. Be a Tyranitar. And he's got them. He's got those dreams in his head that he's put down, that he's writing. Great card. Absolutely love it as a card. I can't remember what's... is it X and Y? It might be X and Y. X and Y era. I don't know which set it's in. Great card though. Really good. And... or Execute. Where are they going? Where are the Executes always going? I have no idea. But I just think they're very funny cards for that reason. It's just ridiculous cards. And I think that is something 6 Mega Brave. If you say so. Order number 5587. I'm sorry. If you're going through this and you're trying to find your order, I know I'm not helping. I'm giving you vague signposts. Every now and then you've got something. But yeah, not the most consistent. But yeah, so without good reason, I suppose no one collects a binder page full of one Pokemon for no good reason, do they? They like it. Odd Master said Aerodactyl. I'll do that. I was like Aaron eating whatever. Why is he eating so many things? The one in Legend Maker EX. Legend Maker EX has some great artwork. The Wailord in that it's not probably everyone's cup of tea. It's a weird artwork to be, in the grand scheme of things. Not a lot of world building there. But I think it's really cool. I just like it. I remember it from, probably because I've got nostalgia about it. And I just remember having it or pulling that card as a child. I don't remember. Somehow acquiring. Maybe my brother pulled it, maybe I pulled it. I don't know exactly. But yeah, having that as a child, great card. And the Aaron from EX Legends Maker. EX Legend Maker? I think it's EX Legend Maker. Or is it Legend Maker EX? No, I think it's EX Legend Maker. It doesn't matter. Does it matter? No, it doesn't matter. So, just eating the train tracks. And there are a few other ones of Aaron doing that. There's one of Leon as well. Eating like an oil drum. Which is very cool. It's an enjoyable card. What can I say? I like looking at it. So, for me, if I were doing that, I would build it around those. Or Cubone Looking Sad. That's another great binder page. I'm not laughing at sadness. It's sad. It's sad circumstances, obviously. But, having said all of that, I think those are things where the lore of Pokemon is enhanced by the Pokemon cards. Or there's those three. There are three with Meowth, Smeargle? Why does that sound wrong? Sounds like I'm saying Smeagol. Or Lord of the Rings. But now I'm just confused. The one with paints? It is Smeargle, isn't it? I guess so, because it's like smear. I don't know. Anyway, the one who paints. And I think there's a Marwile there as well. And they're all going along the same path. It's clearly the same environment. I think that's a great card. I really like the idea that they did with that. And that they would do something like that. I think it's great. Really great. And there's another one with Meowth. I think it's Inkay. Weirdly. I don't know why. But I think he steals an apple from him. Something along those lines. It's just a weird card. It's a hilarious card. I love it as a card. But yeah, very strange card. I also like Plusty and Minun cards. Or any of those sort of two. I think I like it because it's Gen 3. So it's the generation that I have the most affinity to. But then also there's something sort of interesting about it, is it's these, I like cards which relate to other cards, where the artwork is combined, there's some sort of intricacies there. I think that is a good thing. I appreciate that artwork. I think there's a bit more effort that goes into it. I like artworks where the same artist works on the whole evolution line, which is something they did for 151, and I think the Ghast looks really cool for that. The Omanyte looks really good for that. Omanyte line. I don't know why that's not just a thing. Like, why they don't just do that. You know, you look at the starter lines, they look great. It's just really weird. Like, why would you not just have that as the norm? As sort of, this is just a thing that we do. I have no idea. It doesn't make sense. So the Rule of Black Flame packs ended. So now we're moving on to Night Wanderer as the next one. So we're going to open this up. And we're going to start giving out free packs. Or continue giving out free packs, rather. Yeah, I just don't understand that. Doesn't it just make sense? Because sometimes you'll look at an evolutionary line from some of the older sets or some of the new sets, and you think that is an amazing first and third evolution. Well, that is an amazing second evolution, and then the middle one or the first one or whichever one it isn't is just weird and it just doesn't fit. Or they got, more older sets, it has completely contrasting art styles. I was just thinking, what is going on? Why would you do that? This is sort of 5588. It's jumping around a lot today as pre-orders. Well, one, I'm not keeping up. But two, pre-orders kind of messes things up because obviously I'm not dispatching them at the moment. However, they are taking up order numbers. So yeah, there's up to 4,500 orders as we're coming up to the first birthday of the Chase Club. Nearly 4,500 orders. That's kind of crazy. That's, at least 3,000 customers, I guess. I have no idea. I need to look that up. That is pretty insane, to be honest. I'll do a video sort of wrapping up everything, but crazy. Hard to believe, really. It's kind of hard to believe. Obviously you've got, you see people have done this before. Glory of Team Rocket, Super Electric, Stellar. Glory. This bin is trying to kill me. Glory, Super Stellar. 151, Scarlet, Triple B, V-Star. 151, Scarlet, Triple B, and V-Star. You've seen that other people have done it. So obviously it's possible. Of course it's possible. It's possible to build a successful business selling Pokemon cards. There's no doubt about that. People have sold Korean Pokemon cards in the past before as well. And they've done well from it. Well, I don't know sort of specifically just Korean cards, but people sell Korean cards. It's a done thing. It's not something new. In Grumping, people sell singles. And yet you do it and you're like, this is crazy. The interactions that you have, that people are actually interested, the messages you get, that people are thanking you, that it's, you're not just selling Pokemon cards, but you're actually helping or fixing a problem that people have within the hobby. Talking about getting their children involved, people showing pulls. I love seeing pulls. If you've ever got any pulls, post them as a review, just send me an Instagram message, an email. It's always very nice to see. That shared aspect of pulls is great. I think it's something very good for the hobby, very important for the hobby. And it's a shame. It's a shame when you don't have that. When you're sort of isolated as the collector. It's not a good thing, It's not a good thing, I don't think. And looking at ways that can be addressed. and that can be fixed, and thinking about what we can do in that regard. I don't know. If you've got any ideas about, or any things you know about card shops, or community building, things that you would like to see from a live event as well. So I'm going to be trying to plan the live event over the next few months. Probably do some live streams on YouTube, just talking about it, seeing if anybody's got any ideas, things that you could do, things that people have enjoyed from past live events. I not much of an event goer, but for some reason the idea of this live event excites me. What I really wanted to do, because I know a guy who can get me a pre-release case of Karoo Inferno X, so a week early, so that it should be here on release day, or before release day. And then I wanted to host it for the 29th of November, the day after Inferno X releases, and invite 30 people, or sell tickets to 30 people. And then they would each get, we'd all just rip a booster box, or they'd all rip a booster box of Inferno X while we're there. That was what I had in mind. But, for event planning, if you want to get a place for a reasonable price, it's just, because I don't want to charge crazy prices to people to, cover renting the space. So if you want to get a, I think about like £20 a ticket for something like 12 to 5 p.m, do like a pub quiz. Winning team gets, I don't know, a booster box each of a set. I don't know which set. Have sort of a trade night. Have that point where we can, well, not trade night, but sort of a trading moment. Sort of to end it off that people, if they want to hang around, do some trades for as long as we've got the space for. Do that. Have sort of, cheaper food. So I was looking at sort of hiring rooms in a pub, and then doing that, and then you can sort of you can rent the space for a bit cheaper. And so usually these sort of private room hires, it's just a minimum spend. So then you could subsidize that to an extent, and that makes it a bit nicer for people as well. I'm going to write this, and as we all know, if we don't have quiet when I'm writing, I'm going to mess this up. Okay, there we go. So yeah, those were sort of initial thoughts for the event, but I think it's just too soon. So sort of you hire a room and then trying to subsidize it a bit so that people get it for a bit, get the food for a bit cheaper. I thought that was possibly something that we could do. And then I started having these ideas about more interactive games, and that came from the sports side of things. That at these live events, at the sport live events, people were suggesting that you could have a place for people to kick field goals, and if they win it, they get a prize, or a place for them to, what do you call it? What else could it be? For pitching, because obviously these are mainly American content creation. So they could do that. There are lots of different routes for people to take in terms of sports. It's quite natural. It comes across quite naturally. Whereas, who am I looking for? 5590. And then let's look at the next order is not a pre-order. So let me apply and generate this one. And then this next one is One Shiny Treasures, Japanese. I want to do the reviews on the site actually help? I'm sure they do to an extent. But I wonder if my conversion rates increased as a result of having them. Maybe. I don't know. It's hard to tell. Because, conversion rate varies so much based on, the sets that you have in stock. So being able to just tell it from, being able to narrow it down to something is very hard. Price is always changing, sets coming in and out of stock always changing. It's very difficult to have any grasp of it. So one, shiny treasures. And so I have no idea whether the reviews actually help. Yeah, so sports cards, you had all of those things, all of those different activities, physical activities that lend itself, and just sort of thinking, what can you do then in terms of Pokemon? Because obviously physical activities are fun for kids, a nice thing to do from that side of things. So that's why I had those ideas of, the coconut shy, but you're throwing a Pokeball and you're trying to hit plushes, or you're trying to hit booster boxes. I don't know. But I think the plushes is kind of cooler because it's like you're catching a Pokemon. I don't know. That was sort of the idea, is that it feels like you're catching a Pokemon. And I thought that was a nice idea. The same thing as well, so this guy ordered Japanese, I included free pack. I've only got Korean free packs, no Japanese ones. I'm just thinking, if I put that in there, does this guy see it and be like, that's weird? They've got blue backs. I think this is fake. So I don't know. Just thought. Because I had someone send me an email saying that they knew I was selling fake cards and that they were going to escalate this and make sure that everyone knew. And then they left a comment on one of my Instagram posts, one of my pinned ones, being like, I'm selling fakes because they've got English cards and they're not like the English cards. I'm like, well, from their email, I thought they said, they compared it to cards they have and they're just different. And I thought, they've got Korean cards, what's actually going on? Was there sort of an error in the print? Was there a problem? Because sometimes you do have, print errors exist. Sometimes you also have there's a print error with the actual box. I've seen them somewhere that's it's double printed on the front of the box, so it looks a bit weird. And some people might think that that's, it's a dodgy box. So fair enough. I have no doubt about the authenticity of my product and where I source it from. But I understand that there can be sort of things about it that people have questions over. But just comparing it to English, as I write this note, it just doesn't work. Because Korean, Japanese, and English, I'll speak on behalf of them, have completely different production methods. One of the most obvious places you'll see this is with a foil, with a holo. If you've ever got a holo from Japanese or Korean, you can peel that off. It's a sticker on cardstock beneath it. Whereas in English, it's not. It's a different production method. The inks are different, the cardstocks are different, and so naturally you have a very different look and feel of cards. And it's just the nature of the beast. It's just the way it is, unfortunately. And you wish that there was some uniform method that they're all treated in exactly the same way. But unfortunately, that's just not the case. And you can't compare English to Korean. You can't compare English to Japanese. You could argue that if you'd only ever opened Japanese and you didn't know that English was like that, existed, and you bought English, you go, well, this is fake. The back's different, the quality's worse, doesn't have the same texturing, it feels different. You rip it and it looks different inside. But there is as much diversity with all the other languages. Obviously, Japanese is the most different because they have the special back, and that makes it more unique. However, it's important to, do your research. This guy was just saying, so I've got a vibe. My gut's telling me that it's fake. It's just, well, if you did some research, if you went and watched Crystal Collects and you saw her doing box breaks or ripping a box, if you went and saw or did some research, looked on Reddit, looked on other sources that you can explore. That's 5 Night Wanderer, and unfortunately I've got to give you another Night Wanderer as a thank you. But anyway, I say unfortunately because usually, it's probable that someone will just think that it was put in there by mistake, which is fine. But yeah, so it's slightly annoying when they do that, especially when they decide that they're doing sort of some public service by telling everybody that my shop is fake, which, and that I'm a scammer, which is, free country, so whatever. But I think people should take these decisions a bit more light, with a bit more weight. Let's say that you were someone who had clout and you had influence. Okay, this guy's just a small, he's not using Instagram to create. And so he doesn't have sort of following, he doesn't have people, he doesn't have, weight on the internet to sort of share these things. But if he did, and he says this person is selling fakes, and he destroys someone's business on the back of that, and that's someone's full-time business, and they've got family to support, they've got people to support, and they've done this just on a gut feeling. They're not right. He's done this on a gut feeling. You've just ended, or you've just effectively got someone out of their job, out of their business, and they have nothing likely to fall back on. And I just think that's it's a bit much, If you are 100% sure that these are fake cars, and you tested it, you verified it, you've spoken with them, there's no resolution that you can come to, then sure. But if you're just doing this on a gut, before speaking with someone, and just saying to them, I know your cards are fake, I feel it in my gut, I don't know. I don't think it's right. Obviously, I'm sort of more, sensitive to it because I'm on the receiving end. And I'm coming from the perspective of someone owning okay, focus. All quiet. Nailed it. I'm coming from the perspective of a car shop owner. And it's not to say that there aren't people out there who are creating fakes and who are scamming people. But you've got to think about, if I wanted to scam people, why would I, create videos with my face in it so that everybody can see and know, what you are as a scammer? Because one of the benefits of scamming is you just rinse a hobby. If you're a Pokemon scammer, you just list products, English products, for way too good to be true prices, or for MSRP even. People buy them, clear money on that shop, and then you just close it down, and you open up another one, and you just rinse and repeat, and you do exactly the same thing. That would be beneficial in what someone might do as a scammer. But you don't want to show your face. I just don't see what the benefit of doing that would be. That's got a pre-order. That is not a pre-order. So this was 5593, and next up is 5595. The other thing with this is, if you're going to make fake Pokemon product or sell fake Pokemon product, why would you sell or why would you fake Korean? It costs you exactly the same presumably, to fake English and Korean cards. So for the risk involved and for the return, surely you just fake Sun and Moon stuff. You wouldn't fake vintage, because people are a little too, parting with that amount of money. People would be a bit more verifying. We'd fake sort of sword and shield stuff. Stuff where you could get hundreds of pounds, and people are likely to go in for it. But I don't think you would fake something cheap, because it's just sort of, it just doesn't make sense, does it? Okay, this is Rule of the Black Flame. And I think the rest are pre-orders. So I think this is the last one. So I'll pack this up. I will leave you here for the ramblings. If you've got any thoughts about live events, be happy to hear them. Any thoughts about community building, ideas around that, let me know. Any thoughts about videos, things you want to see, let me know as well. And I'm going to finish this order off, and then I will see you tomorrow. It's been Monday. I've packed, I think it's about 50 orders today, which is a bit normal for a Monday. And obviously we've got hundreds of, 100 plus Inferno X ones. Maybe hundreds by the time we get to it, but probably only 200. Anyway, been a pleasure. I'll see you tomorrow.